Welcome back to the Even Your Dynasty show. On today's video, we're going to be talking Marco Luciano. He was just at FanFest in San Jose this last weekend. Felt like he's in a good place, and we've seen a lot of stories coming out in the last couple days, both covering him, whether or not he feels, how he feels going into the season, what he's been doing in the offseason. Also, guys like Willie Adamas was at the fan fest as well. Same with Pat Burrell. We got to see comments from both of them about Marco Luciano and the potential impact someone like Willie could have on Marco this coming season. And I think we all are just kind of hoping that this might be the year that he finally kind of fully realizes his potential, particularly at the plate, and can become the player that they've hoped he could be. I mean, this is a guy that at one point was the crown jewel of the Giants system. This was the highest rated prospect in their system for multiple years. Was always kind of viewed as, offensively a super high ceiling type player. I always watched his swing, and he reminded me a lot of Alfonso Soriano. His swing, obviously, Marco doesn't have the speed that Soriano had, but just the swing and the natural power just had a lot of Soriano, similarities to me. So we're going to do a lot of, talk on that today on this video. But before we get into that, if you do enjoy the content, if you do like the video and everything that we're putting out, please do hit that like, subscribe, click the bell for notifications. Our live show this week is probably going to happen Thursday night instead. I've got stuff going on Friday night, so we're going to bump that up probably to Thursday night this week. And then next Friday, I'm not going to say exactly what's going on, but we are going to probably have a special guest next Friday. So stay tuned for that. Once I get confirmation, we'll let you know who it is and all that stuff. But keep an eye on our socials for that. If you enjoy a lot of the prospect content and stuff we put out, I've been sharing a ton of prospect stuff on Instagram and TikTok. Make sure you follow on those if you want to see more of that kind of content. I know it's funny because we get kind of talked about almost as like a prospect channel on here, which we're a Giants channel first and foremost. We just have a love for the Giants, the farm system, minor league development, all that kind of stuff. I think it's just awesome to watch these guys grow, develop on their journeys, and be able to try and share their stories here and, make the fan base more aware of some of the people that they might just not pay as close attention to. So I enjoy that. Ricky enjoys that. Dan enjoys that. That's just something we all really enjoy on this channel. So, but getting back over to Marco Luciano. So, you know, there's been a lot of comments made about him from Buster Posey to Pat Burrell or Willie Adamas, in the last couple in the last month, really, probably in the last few weeks, where it's given me some hope for going into next season. So we're going to kind of start off with, Marco and what he's done historically. You look at what he's done at every level, and outside of maybe San Jose, it's hard to say he's really dominated any level and truly forced promotions and whatnot. Um, San Jose in 2021, he clearly forced that promotion. That's the one level he truly dominated. Struggled in high A, gets to high A the following year. Now, the one thing I'll say about him at high A in Eugene is he was hitting 288 with a 867 OPS and 11 home runs going into June 3rd. He was dominating, and then he suffered an injury. And this has been kind of the story with Luciano. He's a slow starter. He gets healthy or he gets hurt. And then every time he comes back, he takes forever to get going again. And sure enough, that year he came back and he was just never the same player after the injury. So high A in 2022, he did truly dominate for about 2 months and then he got injured. And that's just been kind of his luck recently. 2023 he was injured all the way going into the season. He had suffered the back injuries. He comes into the year, he misses about the first month of the year, struggles out the gate, like really badly struggles, was hitting sub Mendoza line struggles. I think he was actually hitting kind of close to about $150. Then he goes on an absolute heater for about a month where he hits well over 300, had a near 1,000 OPS, and he drug his stats up to the point where he had actually a 115 WRC plus in the league. So he was 15% better than league average in about 2 months worth of games, and they promoted him up to AAA. So they did kind of rush that promotion, but he had been dominating up until that point. Gets to AAA, has a little bit of success, kind of carried some momentum over from Double A. Then he got a quick call up to the majors. Clearly wasn't probably ready. Also got kind of sporadic at bats, goes back down. He gets put on the taxi squad, suffers some more injuries. Then last season, he was just never, he could just never get going. And there's a few different things I've seen kind of with his game that I've always said need changing. And one of the things that I've always seen is they had turned him into one of the most passive hitters I have ever witnessed watching any level of professional sports. He genuinely looked up there and he always went at the plate, looked indecisive. It almost looked like he didn't have a plan outside of he was just trying to see more pitches. And I don't know if that was a message issue. I've talked about this on previous videos. I don't know if that was a message issue to Marco, if that was something with him, if he was in his head, whatever the case may be. But you watch him at the lower levels, and the numbers would back this up because you look at him at the lower levels, he walked a ton down in like A ball and rookie ball and things like that. But you look at the year he was having in high A, where he was actually really dominant, and he had a 9.6% walk rate and a 22.2% strikeout rate. So the strikeout rate was actually in a range that you're really comfortable with. But he was a bit of a free swinger, and the Giants in that regime felt like that's not going to carry over as he goes, being that much of a free swinger. So they pretty much told him, like, you need to see more pitches and draw more and get on base more and yada yada. And it turned him into a passive hitter and someone that was not up there looking to attack. And Posey mentioned, like, we want to unleash him and get him back to the guy he was when he was first coming up. And I think that is perfect. That's exactly what he needs. And that's to be up there hunting his pitch, being aggressive, and just feeling like he needs to cut loose. And the walks will come. Obviously, that being up there trying to hunt your pitch and being up there trying to take pitches, two different things. Both of them are going to lead to you seeing more pitches. If you're being selective, but he had too many situations where he just looked like he was up there taking all the way. And we can't have that. He needs to be up there trying to do damage because he has some absolutely prodigious power. Like, this guy has enormous power. I think we all can remember in spring training the home run he hit off the scoreboard that had Jung-Hoo Lee shook, who was doing an interview at the time. There was also a game in Las Vegas last season that he hit like 450-foot home run to left field. It actually landed on an arena that's next to the Las Vegas Aviators Stadium. I mean, these were just enormous home runs, and this was just last season. Like, the power is still there. We all know it's still there, but he just hasn't been able to find it. And he also has impressive power the opposite field. We've seen him absolutely drive some balls. I remember a ball a couple of years ago. He took a Clayton Kershaw curveball and one hopped the fence. It was 107 miles per hour off the bat, and that's to the opposite field. I mean, he has the power. He has the potential. Now, there are other questions. Where is he going to play? Well, they have him in the outfield now. He's been working in the outfield. He spent time in Arizona working on the outfield. He went to the Dominican Republic, talked about how he was, working in the outfield. And, is he going to be good out there? Who knows? I mean, I wouldn't ever expect him to be a great defensive player at any position. I don't think he could be any worse than he was at shortstop. So that's a low bar. But if anything, it's going to be his bat. It all comes down to his bat, because if his bat takes off, even if you have to DH him, if his bat hits his potential, who cares? Like, that's what you're hoping for. But if you need to hide him in left field because you don't want to take up the DH spot, fine. But hopefully, we're going to have to expect that he's going to be in the minors to start the year. There's probably nothing he can do, unfortunately for him, in spring training to earn a job this season. He is very likely going to have to play in the minors unless he shows up and looks like a plus defender, which I'm not expecting. I don't see any pathway in spring training for him to make the roster. But that said, he's going to have the opportunity absolutely to earn a job coming out of spring training, or not out of spring training, early in the season with his play in Sacramento. I would expect him to probably be down there for at least 2 months minimum, getting the reps in left field, getting the reps at the plate, and hopefully he can show some long-term improvement there. But he is also on his last minor league option season. So for those of you that don't know how options work, You get typically, once you get added to the 40 man, you typically have 3 option years, meaning 3 different years that the Giants can send him down into the minor leagues and not have to put him up for waivers or anything. Well, next season is his last option year. So, yes, they can put him down in the minors, and that's fine. But you run the risk, if you don't figure out what you have out of him at some point at the major league level, I like to call it the Joey Bart situation, where you're going to end up in a spot where you're still not confident in what you have. You have to make a decision coming out of spring training of, do we roll with this guy and see if he's good? Do we trade him, where every team in the league knows you can't option him again? So if you're going to try and trade him, his value will be effectively nothing at that point. Or do you just put him on waivers and whoever claims him is going to get him, which a guy with his potential, that's not really something that you'd ideally want to do, because if I were the Giants and another team puts a 24-year-old with that kind of potential on the block, especially if I have like a crappy team, I would be looking to bring him in. So it's not a good situation to be in. So this is going to be really a pivotal year for both him individually and the Giants, from an evaluation standpoint, to figure out what they have out of Marco. But, like I said, I think there's a lot of potential with him to improve this season, especially if they're going to do his development justice. Obviously this front office has been sending a message that they value guys putting the ball in play. So that, Marco's going to have to improve that. This is a guy that's had a 30+% strikeout rate at basically every level since the start of 2023. So that's going to have to be something that changes in that time frame. But now, as far as the Willy Adames and, Pat Burrell's comments, for those of you that saw FanFest, Pat Burrell was mentioning how Willy Adames has been working with Elliot Ramos, who, that's another guy that Marco can look to as far as guy that kind of fell off everyone's radar. A lot of people lost belief in him and then took off. Now, I didn't lose belief in Elliot Ramos. Those of you that don't believe me, go roll the tape from last year. I was hyping him up all last offseason and early in the year. But anyway, I digress on that. He mentioned how Ramos was kind of hanging on every word for Willie and things like that. And, Adames being another, fellow Dominican for Marco, that could be a guy that Marco leans on a lot, especially early on this season and in spring training, and tries to pick his brain and learn from and all that stuff. And Adames has, openly embraced that role and was talking about how, he loves the potential of guys like Luciano, and he wants to do anything and everything he can to help those guys realize that. And I mean, why wouldn't he? Adames signed up to be here for 7 years. So of course he's going to want to try and help his teammates be the best versions of himself. But it's really nice to see a guy take on that kind of leadership role, and a guy that's really hoping to try and help, unlock a guy like Luciano, who's got huge potential. So it's tough. I know a lot of fans have lost belief in him. I would say let's just see what happens this season. I love the message of the front office, and I'm personally a believer that with the right support system, he is a guy that can, realize his potential. So appreciate all you guys tuning in. Like I said, we'll be doing probably our live show on, I think, Thursday night. Dan and I will be doing that. So come check it out then. Hopefully we have some more topics to talk to other than the fact that they signed Jake Lamb, which frankly, who cares? It's a depth piece. Doesn't really matter in the grand scheme, but appreciate all you guys. Like I said, if you want more prospect content, make sure you follow those socials. But other than that, go Giants, and we'll catch you next time.